Some episodes have a great premise and then kind of fall off at the end. And that was the case with Blind as a Bat, which we're talking about right now. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. So glad to have you once again. And for those of you that are new, I hope you'll stick around for a while. Because if you're like me and grew up with Batman the Animated Series and love Batman today, then this is the show for you. And today we're talking about Blind as a Bat, which originally aired on February 22nd, 1993. Let me get the 60-second Joker bomb rundown of the episode out of the way right up front because we've got a lot of things to talk about. And you'll want to stick around to the end so you can see where I rank this episode in my list of favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series so far. Here we go, 60 seconds. Wayne Tech is demonstrating a new stealth helicopter, and as they're demonstrating this out in the field, it goes rogue and starts shooting at people, and then we find out the Penguin has stolen that and is holding it for ransom. When he blows up this car, it flash bombs into Bruce Wayne's face, and then he has Alfred driving back and call Leslie because he can't see, and he's now blind. So she warns him, don't go out, you can't be Batman, you got to keep your eyes closed and eyes covered from the light as long as possible, and he goes, I can't do that because they need me. And the Penguin is out with the stealth helicopter and he's holding it for ransom. And so they devise this helmet that uses the stealth technology of the helicopter, or the sonar capability of the helicopter, so you can see images. But he has to recharge the battery very soon, and obviously he doesn't. And then it is now, as he's flying the Batwing, the battery starts going dead, and now he's got to fight the Penguin without being able to see. And he finally dumps a bunch of water in this lava, and it steams up. And then because he hears the Penguin coughing, he is able to catch him. He jumps down on top of him, and then he catches the newspaper because now he can see, and all is good back in Gotham City. Ooh, I felt good about that one. Thought I was on a roll.
Looks like it's going even better than we hoped. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Wayne?
So I have to say right off the bat, I don't remember this episode at all. There's been some episodes that I've reviewed on this channel that I didn't remember by the name, or I didn't remember the story of it, but there were certain images or certain parts or certain lines or characters or something that I remembered and went, oh yeah, I do remember seeing that, but it just didn't stick out in my mind. This episode, I don't remember at all. And once I started watching it, the title card didn't look familiar. The setup, the scenes, it felt completely new. I didn't know the Penguin was in it. Nothing. If I did see this one, it was maybe once and wasn't fully awake Saturday morning when I saw it. I don't know.
Keep him home, Alfred, even if you have to hog tie him. He needs to rest.
And I don't think it was because it was a bad episode. And honestly, it really started off really strong. The idea of this stealth helicopter that they were demonstrating and then the Penguin stealing it.
Good. You'll do well to remember that.
I've always been a pretty big fan of Penguin. Even back to the Burgess Meredith Penguin in the 1960s Batman.
Oh, Fabulously, Kaloo-Kalay!
So he's in it. They have this stealth helicopter. Batman has to overcome this obstacle of being blind. So a great setup for the episode.
Because I don't want anyone to find out that I can't see.
Now he has to stop the Penguin and get the helicopter back, but can't see. That setup is great, but that's where it kind of started to fall apart for me. And maybe because I hadn't seen it before and I was kind of expecting it to go a different direction than what it did.
If you think a little inconvenience like this is going to stop me.
And as I talked about in the Batman Mask of the Phantasm review, if you haven't seen that, you'll have to check that out. I mentioned how I'm really bad at guessing how movies end and TV shows end. To say that it went a different direction than I expected is not saying much. But really, I thought that it was going to be a matter of, okay, now he's going to have to rely on his hearing and his other senses.
I've got to find some way to stop him. Sight or no sight.
But they didn't. They went the direction of him using the same technology as the helicopter to be able to hook this helmet into his cerebral cortex or something or other.
I mean, using electrodes to connect this gizmo directly to your brain's optic center?
Because it was very obvious Leslie set up the...
Just be careful with that power pack. You have to keep recharging it.
Even not being good at guessing endings, that, okay, it's going to run out of battery power. Then he's going to be struggling. And I think I just wanted to see Batman use his other senses and not have to rely on sight.
I was aiming for its head. It isn't perfect.
Then there's just some clunky parts to the middle to get to the third act where he faces off against the Penguin. One, he goes into Commissioner Gordon and Mayor Hill's office.
Which is why you're going to do exactly what the Penguin wants you to.
And then the mayor goes on TV and says,
"Just bring the Raven X-111 to the drop site at midnight, and I promise you'll get everything that's coming to you."
oh, sure, that doesn't sound like a trap at all.
You see, I told you they'd knuckle under.
And at that point, Penguin doesn't know that Batman can't see, so why is he not assuming that Batman's going to come and stop him?
In that case, gentlemen, it's payday.
And then when the copter is taking on the Batwing, which that's kind of cool. I like it's an aerial battle with the stealth copter and the Batwing. Of course, it would have been fun to have the Batcopter and the stealth copter. Is the Batcopter in the animated series? The other shaky part is once the helmet is losing its charge and he's unable to see, it's like it just comes on long enough for him to see glimpses of what he needs to do instead of it just going off.
What's the matter, Bat?
Like, I really just wanted to see him lean on his own abilities without his eyesight, especially since in the episode Off Balance, that's how he made it through that maze. He just closed his eyes and was able to make it through there because he relied on his other senses rather than his sight. But in this, as soon as the helmet loses its charge, he can't even stand up straight and walk in a straight line. He loses all of his ability, and it just made Batman really weak.
Look at the way he's moving. There's something wrong with him.
And then Penguin has a perfect opportunity to shoot him, and he's conveniently out of bullets. And then finally, at the end, there's the big lava down at the bottom, and Batman feels the water dripping on his head, and he spins the valve and gets all the water to rush down in there to create all this steam to make the Penguin cough, which steam doesn't typically make you cough, but we'll ignore that. But I thought that was kind of a neat tool that he finally figured it out that he has to rely on his other senses and then is able to take down the Penguin, and that was nice.
Not possible. You're supposed to be helpless. Helpless.
And the nice little tag at the end where he catches the newspaper was pretty cool.
My word, sir. Surely you're not...
No, Alfred, I can see just fine.
Maybe because I hadn't seen it before, I was expecting it to go in another direction, and it didn't, and it wasn't a great depiction of Batman. I just didn't like seeing him in such a weak state just because he couldn't see.
Tell me something I don't know.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, as the episode was starting, I was thinking to myself that this might be a contender to make it into the top 10. And unfortunately, as the episode went on, it just wasn't happening for me. So I thought it was a neat premise. I thought it was a decent use of the Penguin, although the motive was weak. Batman was weak. And so for all those reasons, it ended up falling at the number 26 spot of my favorite episodes so far. It's below On Leather Wings because that was a proper use of the sonar capability, but it does beat out The Cat in the Claw because I do tend to favor some of these smaller stories. Here is just a story of Batman trying to stop the Penguin, but the story with The Cat in the Claw was a bit of a bigger, Gotham City's going to get blown up story. Those are good to a point, but I liked some of the smaller stories, so this wins out over that episode.
Right now, I've never seen anything prettier.
Can you think of other examples where Batman is able to still accomplish his mission without one of his senses, whether it's sight or hearing or something else? Like I said, in Off Balance, he chooses not to use his sight to get through that vertigo effect and make it through the room. So can you think of other examples where Batman is either hurt or injured, but still is able to accomplish the task at hand just by modifying his technique? I know there's a lot of examples of this, so let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click that like button, and if you want to see more episodes like this, just hit the subscribe, because tomorrow we have another episode of Batman the Animated Series coming out with Day of the Samurai, so you don't want to miss that. As always, I'm Andy Knode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.